What qualified me for it? God knows. I don't know. Someone wanted me to do it. I'm just happy that it's coming out, that people are supporting it, and it's it's different to be launching a show on a train.
A series premiere at a railway station? No, actually this premiere took place during a train ride. Paramount Plus and the Deutsche Bahn celebrated the release of the new show The Chemistry of Death. Along the author Simon Beckett, lead actor Harry Treadaway and supporting actor Hardy Krüger Jr, also some German celebrities were invited. We are happy to show you the results of our train interview.
Hi Harry. I'm Michael from Riecks-Filmkritiken, and first of all, it's a very unusual place for a series premiere. What were your thoughts when you heard from it?
I'm just happy that it's coming out, that people are supporting it, and it's it's different to be launching a show on a train. But I understand that if you're riding this train, you can click on to Paramount Plus and watch the shows from that when you're on the train, which I think is a great feature for the train and for Paramount Plus. And we're starting this press junket in one city and ending it in another, and that's cool. Why not?
Yeah, I think so too. Did you read the book from Simon Beckett before, and what fascinates you about it?
So the first thing I read was the first episode when I got sent that before a meeting, and I was really drawn into this idea of David Hunter, and this, you could tell that this man was very complex, he was very layered, and had a lot of demons in his past, a lot of traumatic experience, but when you meet David Hunter at the beginning of the story, he's created this world for himself, and this other character that he's created since this traumatic event, which I'm not allowed to talk about. He's changed his job, he's become this village GP, this kind of very typical English GP living in this small, very sort of calm, quaint English village. And he's sort of created this kind of perfect GP existence for himself, and actually that's just a mask for hiding for the past, really. And so within this story, and within reading the first episode, I could see that there was a man that he'd created, but also a completely different man underneath that. And for me, that's really interesting, for any actor to play with what someone presents to the outside world, but really what's going on the inside. And in some respects, I think that's what kind of drew me into the project. Was, I love a crime drama. I love watching, things like that, and trying to piece it all together. But it really felt like this project kind of played with the formula a bit, because yes, we have the crimes, as a sort of central base for the story, I guess, but it really is a lot about the inner life of David Hunter, and about and to be honest, a lot of other people's inner lives as well. It's interesting because it is forensic. We are looking at bodies and bones and DNA and stuff like that, but it really looks at the humans underneath it, I think, more than some other shows in this genre would do. So that's, for me, what was interesting about it.
Okay. You play the lead role, David Hunter, and what interested you in the role, and what qualified you for it?
Well, qualifications-wise, I got 11 GCSEs, and what qualified me for it? God knows. I don't know. Someone wanted me to do it. I guess I'm the right age, and I don't know. What qualified me for the role? I don't know, to be honest. What was the question?
What qualified?
What qualified me for the role? I don't know. Well, I guess you just go for these meetings and you give your impression of a part, and you see if that rings true for the people that you're going to be working for. I mean, yeah.
And what can you tell us about your role and how much and what of yourself is in the role?
So I play David Hunter, who's when you meet him, he's working as a GP in a very sleepy English village, and he's kind of created this life for himself over the last 3 years. And within the story, very early on, a death occurs in this otherwise picturesque, very perfect little English town, and him having a past which was forensic based, that was, you know, working with police. The local police find that out and they start to bring him into the case, and it starts to unravel his persona that he's created. It starts to you know, churn up all these feelings related to this really, really traumatic event which he's just got over at the start of the story, really, kind of. He's got himself into a place that he can exist again. He's not dealt with it in any way. And so, yeah, it's interesting for me, is just sort of finding the unraveling and seeing someone struggling to present their idea of themselves, and in the process having to confront really what's going on inside themselves. And I mean, you know, really by the end of this series, he's taken the first step, I guess, to start to look back and to start to process his trauma from his previous life, and so he's still got a long way to go, but he's started to process these feelings that he's not been able to, you know, deal with for the last few years. So that's what attracted me to him as a character. And what of me is in the role? I mean, you know, in some ways it is me, in some ways nothing. I mean, it's like this, that's what you know, it's interesting acting, you know, it's so hard to define what parts of yourself you bring. I mean, you know, in many ways he's, and unlike me completely, you know, he's a forensic-based scientist who has been working as a GP, he's medically trained, he's, you know, that's nothing to do with me, but in some ways he's not a million miles away as well. Yeah.
That's something for the next question, because I want to know what did you learn anything new for the role or so?
So I was really lucky to be able to spend some time with one of the UK's sort of leading forensic anthropologists, a guy called Tim, who has been a real source of research and information for Simon Beckett as he's been writing the novels, and he's an incredible forensic anthropologist. I went to Durham University and spent some time in his lab with real human remains, with skeletons from years ago and more recent skeletons, and bones that have been burnt, and remains of humans, and it was absolutely fascinating, and something I felt very sure that I needed to do, because, you know, it's such a technical kind of world that I was going to have to be jumping into, and you know, I needed to go and touch the bones and look at them and feel them and ask lots of questions, and so that was all good and really helpful, and also fascinating and slightly disturbing, but ultimately interesting, and yeah, fascinating to ask him loads of questions about what actually happens to bodies when they die, because it's something that we don't like to think about too much, I guess, but that is David Hunter's world. That is this guy's job, is to, you know, from his job kicks in just before death, really, and what happens in the days or the weeks afterwards, and he has, you know, that's the job of a forensic anthropologist, is, you know, working out cause of death, or you know, what led to that person stopping living, and so yeah, that was all completely new for me, completely new information, but I love learning new things, and so to get an experience like that where I'd never, you know, I would never be able to go and spend time in a lab in a university if it wasn't for, you know, saying that I was playing a part And so, you know, it's another example of some of the greatest parts of this job are learning from experts in fields that you would never get to learn from normally, in a way that you wouldn't get to learn normally. And yeah, this was a good example of that.
Okay, we talked much about your role. What can the audience expect from the whole series?
It's a very atmospheric, very beautifully shot, well-directed story of some character, you know, a real mixture of characters that exist in the same worlds but are coming from very different places. And yeah, you've got, you know, visually you've got very contrasting landscapes from Norfolk in England to the Outer Hebrides in Scotland. So you've got real visual cinematic landscape, and hopefully the enjoyment of a crime drama, the kind of thing that we all love to do, to piece together, to work it out, to be a bit scared, to be a bit unsure about, you know, and to get to feel that from the safety of your own living room, but also to see people dealing with you know, difficult situations and how they manage that. Really, it's quite a vague thing to say, but I'm trying not to give away too much.
And what was the most difficult part for you on the shooting?
I mean, I think getting it. So we've got, you know, it's always challenging trying to put a novel into a film or into a series. There's always challenges that come from that, because with books you're in the, you know, the audience is right there with the author, and so you can have, you know, scenes can have lots of dialogue. You can really describe the inner feelings of people, and obviously with TV or film, it's rarer to have long dialogue scenes. So you have to do lots of trimming of bits, but to try and retain the essence of, you know, the character and the story of it. So there's lots of scenes that are directly taken from the novel, but worked on and played with and developed to work for screen, I guess, more. And so a lot of the work really was sat down with Richard, the director, who I got on with really well and who's brilliant, and we just spent hours talking about, you know, from the very beginning, from the first sort of scripts. We spent a lot of time making notes individually, coming back together, talking. Let's do more of this. Maybe we don't need as much of that. And it was really a good collaboration in terms of, you know, developing it. But it, you know, obviously it had been developed by lots of people at different stages. But I guess I came on a couple of months before, and the challenge of the shoot was just trying to make the next day as good as possible. And so we had car rides together, you know, long conversations, and sometimes it would be, you know, little tweaks where it would just make the scene feel a little bit better, or we'd, you know, sometimes make big adjustments. But that was really, really great to do that. You don't always get to do that. Sometimes it's a lot, you know, every project is different. But on this one there was a lot of talking about it with him, and then you know, trying to implement ideas and thoughts that we'd had on the day. And so but it felt free. It felt a lot of freedom because of that, and felt like we were never just turning up and just going, right, we'll just do this scene. It was always like, how can we try and make this better, and what can we try and, you know, how can we make it as good as possible. So there was that in terms of challenges. But, you know, another challenge is trying to make the world windy and rainy when you're in August. So, you know, that was challenging as well for production, for crew, for, you know, trying to drag massive fans up the sides of mountains and rain machines, and we were constantly, there'd be blue skies and we're trying to make it dark and grey and rainy. So, you know, challenges of that, challenges of trying to keep true and to the kind of crime drama genre, and keep that part of it going, but also really trying to find ways of getting inside David Hunter's head and telling his past story, and trying to figure out really what it is that he's going through in this. It's called Chemistry of Death, and I think in some ways, this is my reading of it, in some ways that refers to, the chemical reaction of the body, in death, cells breaking down and, skin seepage and all that stuff. But I think also, for me, it felt like the chemistry of death for what he's gone through in his life. He's had a traumatic experience. He's lost people that are very close to him, which we discover and learn more about during the series, and so it's trying to find a way of telling that side of the story as well as keeping the focus through on the kind of the evidence, the certain crimes that occur within the series. He's a complex character, and he's really suffering a lot at the beginning and during, and I guess it's trying to going through this really, really crazy journey, and at the end he's taken one step closer to maybe finding some peace for himself.
Was there any special moment, any special experience, or a funny moment or so that will remain in your memory?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a sailing scene in it where me and Jeanne who's a wonderful actress, were doing a sailing scene, and there was basically no wind. And we'd done like a day sailing lesson, a week before. But we had a Australian Olympic sailor lying down in the bottom of the boat, helping us in case we needed help. And so we're sort of doing this scene, which is supposedly just us two on a boat, very kind of intimate and private moment. And really, we've got a sailor lying down saying, "Go this way, go that way." And so it's just, a kind of classic example of the smokes and mirrors of filming. What else? I don't know. I mean, it was quite dark, a lot of it. It wasn't. I mean, we had a lot of fun in between times because I think that's helpful to then be able to go into the darkness better. But we had a great bunch of it was the actors, really, I think, that I had that was the source of kind of joy on the show. It's a really ensemble piece. There's a I don't know. There's a lot of really great actors in it who all brought so much to their parts and to the story, and we had a lot of fun because we had just a lot of good times in between wearing midgie nets so we didn't get bitten by the Scottish midgies, and raining up the side of mountains and blah blah blah. But we had we managed to have fun in between times. I mean, there's probably loads of things, but your mind boggles when you ask things like that. Yeah.
It sounds wonderful. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wie fandst du das Event heute ganz besonders in einem Zug?
Ja, habe ich so auch noch nie erlebt. Ich fand es ziemlich spannend und irgendwie eine ziemlich coole Aufmachung von dem Ganzen. Die Serie hat mich jetzt persönlich noch nicht 100%ig umgehauen, liegt aber auch daran, dass ich nicht so der Crime-Fan bin, aber der Hauptcharakter, David Hunter, fand ich sehr, sehr spannend, und ich würde sehr gern mehr über ihn erfahren, und ich glaube, da bin ich immer so ein bisschen ungeduldig, weil ich will dann immer in der ersten Folge so die komplette Backstory von dem Charakter wissen, aber das macht es ja auch irgendwie spannend, dass ich mehr über ihn erfahren will, und ich bin gespannt, was noch so kommt. Die Gewalt und die Morde und sowas sind sehr grotesk, aber irgendwie so künstlerisch-ästhetisch hat schon fast ein bisschen was von Hannibal. Und wenn die Serie weiter so geht, dann ist es definitiv ein Slow Burn, was sich aber dann im Ende hoffentlich in einem ganz tollen Crescendo wiederfindet und man dann ein befriedigendes, zufriedenstellendes Ende hat. Ja, ich bin gespannt, was kommt.
Wir haben jetzt die erste Folge gesehen. Magst du kurz mal sagen, was wir da erlebt haben?
Wir haben, es spielt eigentlich in einem kleinen Vorort. Ich weiß jetzt gerade nicht genau wo, das habe ich nicht mitgekriegt. Aber ein kleiner Vorort, Wälder, Familien und man hat eben viele Familiendynamiken auch kennengelernt und eben den David Hunter, der auch Vergangenheit, soweit ich weiß, hat mit dieser Gegend. Und er ist so eine Art Forensiker. Den genauen Begriff habe ich jetzt mir nicht merken können, aber er arbeitet in der Forensik und hat quasi damit zu tun, was passiert mit dem Körper, wenn er in dem Sinne verwest und was kann man daraus für Züge ziehen und oder Schlüsse ziehen. Und dann gab es eben einen Mord und es gilt, diesen Mord aufzuklären. Sehr viel mehr kam nicht vor. Es wurde sehr viel Wert gelegt auf die Atmosphäre der Serie. Es ist eine ein bisschen bedrückende Atmosphäre, beklemmend, was aber ein positiver Aspekt ist, weil man sich gleich mit reingezogen fühlt und eben drin ist in dieser Serie.
Und jetzt, ich glaube, viele finden das natürlich immer noch skurril, dass man im Zug sowas macht. Wie war das Erlebnis für dich, sowas in einem Zug mal zu sehen, ganz eng aufeinander mit den anderen? Und es ist ja schon irgendwie skurril.
Es hat definitiv so einen gemeinschaftlichen Aspekt, vor allem jetzt, wo man irgendwie 2,5 Jahre so ein bisschen auf Kino verzichten musste. Es hat ein bisschen was von Kino, weil wenn irgendwas passiert, was Spannendes, dann merkt man schon, dass die Leute auch gegenseitig so reagieren und auch das so ein bisschen miteinander erleben. Also es hat einen gewissen Kino-Flair und der Sound war gut, das Bild war gut, also ich kann mich nicht beschweren.
Nächstes Level, was denkst du, was wird uns als nächstes erwarten nach Zug?
Also ich rechne schon damit, dass bei Top Gun 3 wir dann ein Privatjet haben. Nein, aber es ist auf jeden Fall sehr cool, was sich da die Kooperation zwischen der Deutschen Bahn und die Paramount Plus ausgedacht haben.